Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Energy Healing Lifestyle Journal. We are talking about emotions today, Self Care Challenge Day 37, right? So, 49 days of self care. Let me find me on Facebook. It's not showing me yet, so we can share it out. And by the way, you guys, if you happen to hop on and you happen to watch this live, if you would also share it out, that would be fantastically great. I don't know. There we go. Kind of a lag, it seems, on social media before we actually show up where we want to show up, but that's okay. We work with it, don't we? So the acronym self-care, I actually created an acronym that falls right into place with the 7 chakras, which I find super cool. Today is the second day, so we are on letter E for emotions. Now, if you're familiar with me talking also about my other acronym of Best You, the E in best is also for emotions. And I did that purposely just because emotions are massive in this human life experience. They guide us. Sometimes they do more than that and they push and pull us, right? But if we're able to observe them and not get sucked in and pushed and pulled, then they really are a guide for us. They let us know when things feel off and they let us know when things feel right on point, right? Excuse me. They give us that many things. I mean, I was thinking about how many different emotions that we have and how many different feelings that we have, and there are literally tons. If you Google emotions or feelings words, there are many, like many, many. So practicing that, right? Part of the journaling and part of the process for today is to practice that as we check in with ourselves to be aware, assess, and align where we're at. Part of that awareness is being able to identify what we are feeling, what emotions do we feel, and then we could dig deeper and see what else comes up. So I'm going to share with you as we do, because this is the journaling process, right? As I was journaling this morning, I don't have my orange pen with me. I left it over there. It's okay. I like to hold things and talk and use my hands. Let me back up a little bit as well. So we have emotions. The sacral chakra governs, literally, that energy center governs our emotions. In the intentional living codes, cheers to financial freedom with Iona Mead at the Soul Legacy Academy and Spiritual Biz YouTubers Network, she talks about health freedom and not just physical health. Oftentimes, first thing we think of is physical health. That is definitely part of it, a huge part of it. But it's also our mental health and our emotional health and our mental health and our social health and our financial health. And it's like all the things, right? So checking in with that, and one truly affects the other. So I myself have noticed, let me notice if you've noticed this too, depending on like what you eat, and I'm not here to lecture you on what you eat by any means, because I am not a good healthy food guru. I've had trainings, I've had teachings, yeah, don't always walk my talk in that aspect. However, I notice if you check in and pay attention to yourself, you can notice what you eat and how you feel after, right? So there are some foods that you eat and like I feel good and I feel nourished and I feel strong and I feel healthy and I feel energized. And there's other foods that we eat where we're like, oh, I feel so bloated and laggy and heavy, right? Again, emotions tied with food. Sometimes it's my emotions that trigger those urges to eat like junk food, right? I feed my emotions. I'm weighing them down in a sense. Or trying to get grounded because I feel so wonky with them. And then sometimes it's what I eat that can then trigger the emotions. And then, of course, what we eat and our emotions can affect our physical health. So if I'm eating a lot of like high carbs, I can end up developing type 2 diabetes. I could develop all kinds of stuff, right? I'm no doctor. I'm not trying to talk health here, but just being mindful of the things that the foods that we eat can do to our bodies. I can increase inflammation. I might notice that my joints feel stiffer and tighter. Um, what else? There's all kinds of things. So being mindful of those connections. And again, Iona talks more about health freedom in her journal as well, in the Soul Legacy Journal. So the sacral chakra also, let's make some more connections. The sacral chakra also governs that, so that space, losing my words, my apologies. The sacral chakra is located, let me start there, above the pubic bone and below the belly button, so that lower abdomen area. So think of your reproductive space. And I don't just mean as a physical being in our reproductive organs, but I'm also talking about our creativity, right? Again, make those connections. We have layers and we have different levels, if you will, within those layers. How creative do you feel? Are you birthing? Iona calls it birthing ideas, birthing projects, birthing a book, right? Are we birthing our ideas and projects that come into mind? Are we feeling creative? And then are we allowing that creativity to flow to create the thing that came into mind, right? That dropped in for us? How do we feel about what we're doing? Do we feel like what Iona calls that we're stuck in some type of soul sucking day job? Or do we love what we do? Are we passionate about what we do? Or maybe there's even an in between. Maybe it's not the ideal job or career plan for the day, whatever it may be, but we feel good in it. We still feel good in it, right? Maybe it's a means to an end, or maybe it's connected with another thing. You bring in your creativity in the thing that you're doing. So, as an example, when I was working at the hotel for a while, no offense to the hotel or anyone in it, but it wasn't like my passion. I didn't feel like it was my purpose to go there, right, and work. It wasn't my purpose, if you will, to fulfill that exact job duty. However, the connections that I made while I was there, I felt really good about, and I felt that I had purpose within those, right? They had meaning. I had meaningful contacts with people and meaningful relationships in a sense, some short term, some longer term. And I don't mean romantic, I just mean, whether it be employee to the boss, or, just other coworkers within, or different customers, clients that stayed with us. It's just really cool if you take a moment and step back and look, just making those connections and see, and how different, or how many different ideas might even come from a conversation that you have with someone at a job that you really don't intend to stay with the job, but you could see the purpose of being there, and how it helps fulfill different roles, right? But your mood, your emotions, your feelings, how do you feel when you're there? Do you feel that? Do you feel that uplift, that feeling of purpose, or that those sparks of ideas that are shared? Or do you feel like that, "Oh my gosh, I gotta go back there again today." I've had those days or those jobs too, I was like, "Oh man, I just, felt like it drained every piece of my being." Didn't wanna stay there at all. When you have that trapped and stuck feeling, right? So be aware and assess where you're at. And again, if you're not in alignment, what's a step you could take to be in alignment? So as I mentioned when I first started, and how when we are checking in with ourselves, to be aware and assess where we're at, and get into alignment if we're not, sometimes dig a little deeper. So as I started my journaling process this morning, checked in, like, okay, what am I feeling? What are my feeling words today, right? How do I identify my emotions? I feel pretty calm. This is what I started with, right? I feel calm, pretty content, relaxed. As far as alignment, I feel pretty good with that, right? I like those emotions. I'm good with that. So then I took that a little bit further. I'm like, so hopeful, because feeling calm, for me, calm, content, relaxed, is also hopeful, because that's like the opposite of being stressed and panicky and worry and all those other kind of icky things, right? Where it could start to cloud my hopefulness. So feeling hopeful. And that increased even a little more to feeling a bit impressed, because I started to reflect on what I'm working on in my own projects and the things that I'm creating and what I am birthing, right? And grateful, very grateful. So again, digging a little deeper, right? And then that moved into inspired, and a sense of safety. I say sense of because, we can all talk about what it means to be safe or feel safe, and if we actually are, and whatever, to pick it apart. But just in that sense of right now in this moment, I feel a sense of safety, right? So then I went a little bit further, and I pulled in Iona's intentional living code of health, and I dug into that, some awareness assessment to see if I'm in alignment. My mental health, I feel pretty good, right? The way my thought patterns have improved, creating more habits, healthier habits, if you will, with my thought patterns. Physically, I've taken a little dip on the physical aspect with the tooth because the eating and even the physical, because I've noticed if I'm bent over, I have too much movement, then it increases like pressure and pain or whatever. So slight little dip or setback until this is taken care of. Friday is my day, and I'm scheduled to get that out. Human life experience, right? It happens. It's fine. Emotional, again, I'm feeling pretty good, right? Spiritual, feeling really good. Well, in today's live, Iona also mentioned the health of our business. And then that brought in the health of finances, right? Am I in alignment with financial abundance? I was like, oh, so this is starting to feel a little bit different. So, what emotions do I feel when I think of financial abundance? And what emotions do I feel? These are some questions you can ask yourself as well, right? And what emotions do I feel when I think of having a large audience? So Iona was talking about people, on lives today, and um, we want to personalize these lives. We get on here and we want to have conversations with people, right? It's really nice to be able to jump on and have conversations. We hold monthly calls because we want to connect with people and have conversations, yeah. But it's a thing sometimes when you're scrolling on social media or you happen to watch a video that you just don't respond, right? I don't. I mean, I admitted to that. She asked me, and I do it. I've watched videos and have not commented or not hit a like or had not, not just responded to it, but I was taking in what I was watching. So that's kind of a thing. So it's still feeling fairly new to getting on lives and sharing these types of videos. It does seem kinda odd, and you can see, right, as people jump in or out. So if you're on a Facebook Live, just straight to Facebook, sometimes if it's a friend, like, their name might pop up when they come on your live or if they happen to see it. Um, I'm using StreamYard, so I could just see numbers. I don't see who's coming on where unless somebody chooses to comment. But it can feel pretty awkward, right? So then I was asking myself, like, okay, so is because we're always evolving and expanding and evolving and expanding and evolving and expanding. So as we're clearing out money blocks and as we're building the business and as we're shifting into these different roles and creating and birthing and and producing more things, right? When the audience starts to increase. So when it's more than one or two, more than five, more than 10, it becomes 100, it becomes 1,000. Because I wondered that too. Like, so it's great to have these conversations. So how do you possibly, have you ever gotten on somebody's live and like in the comments, it's just like, it just goes so quickly. You really can't even keep up with it, right? Like, I've watched some of like Kyle Cease or even Matt Kahn in those comment sections just go and go and go, right? So I'm thinking if you're the one on the live, how would you even keep up with that? Like, I don't know right now, and they don't. I mean, ultimately, you don't. Excuse me, you would almost be on probably 24/7. I was going to say an entire day, but probably even longer, right? At some point, you would have to just come back and then respond to the comments in the chat boxes or in the comment sections or whatever you want to call it, depending on your platform, which is okay. But feeling into that, because at this point in time, it's we're able to communicate with those who hop on and make a comment, whether it's on any of the platforms. So just sharing perspective, right? And then checking in again on my emotions about all of that. So when I asked myself those questions and then I did that other check in, then I noticed I was feeling nervous and excited. So both, right? I have to really feel into that because to me, nervous, excited, anxiety kind of all feel the same. So I used to automatically assume, I've shared this before, I used to automatically assume that that feeling was like anxiety, and then I take anxiety as something to be fearful of, right? Because in our survival modes, fight, flight, and freeze, that's where that anxiety would come up like, oh, danger, right? Is that Mr. Robinson I'm thinking of with the robot? Danger, danger. Anyway, it's like that inner warning, right? Danger, danger. It's anxiety. So when I finally realized that excitement feels the same in my body that as anxiety, as nervousness, then I can feel a little safer, right? Then I can just sit with that and see which one is it? Where's it coming from? Why is it there? Oftentimes it's a false sense of anxiety. It's a false sense, like the thoughts or the trigger or whatever initiated it isn't a real thing. It's just the mind trying to take us out, as Iona says. It's just our ego getting panicking for nothing, for something that the ego doesn't even know yet, right? But still just checking in with myself. What was I feeling? Nervous, excited? I went a little further to journal, asking myself again, then where does that nervousness come from? Where does that excitement come from, right? I asked myself if there were any fears, and a few that popped in were like fear of success, some of the normal ones, fear of success, fear of failure, and fear of judgment. And I've had that, I've to be transparent and honest. So for those of you who are in a similar situation and you're like, oh yeah, I'm either not doing lives or I'm terrified to do them because, or even a video because sometimes it's one of those three things. There's more, but it's just the three that came up today: the fear of success, fear of failure, and fear of judgment. I've had the judgments. I do things on YouTube and I've done shorts on YouTube. So not all the comments are great, but that's okay. We're not always going to see eye to eye. We're not always going to carry the same beliefs. We're not always going to be on the same wavelength, if you will, or have the same interest. Or it just is what it is, right? But to allow that to shut me down, that I'm not doing that. And I hope you don't either. So as we journal a little bit more, because that next question then is, now that we're aware and we assess where we're at, because I don't want to be in fear. I don't want to be in fear of success, failure, or judgment. So what is a step I can take to then get into alignment? And again, we don't have to take leaps and bounds. We don't necessarily have to dive off that cliff, right? We say leap of faith. It doesn't have to be that big and massive. We don't have to skip the whole process and journey. But what is that one step? We have layers, remember? Like I took notes to keep me focused. So just if you want to see, like I'm literally, when I say I get on that I journal, I am journaling and I'm sharing that process with you. And I would love for you to do the same. Share some in the comments or even shoot me a DM if you would like. But it made me think of Matt Kahn. Something that he says is what, and he wrote a book. Do I have that one? I reorganized. Yeah, I won't dig. I think I set them lower. Whatever arises, love that. And I was like, yeah, literally. So in that fear, and I sat with this today, and I did this, what I'm sharing with you today. I held space for it, right? So whatever arises, love that. I let it come up, and I just held it, and I allowed myself to feel it, right? Held that space for it to be there. Gave it permission, as Kyle C says, I gave it permission to be in my body. I gave myself permission to feel the fear. And I held the space there and I met it with love and compassion. I didn't beat myself up for it. I didn't cut myself down for it. I didn't start criticizing and judging myself for it. I just held it there. And then I was thinking of Reiki, right? I have a whole process and systems that I use. Use it. Here to walk my talk. So I just imagined sending it Reiki. I say it. It's a part of me. It's an emotion of me, but it's not all of me, right? I'm not identifying with it. I'm not becoming it, but I am allowing it to be there. I'm allowing it to show up, and then I'm allowing it to release. So I just imagine holding that space and showering that fear, excuse me, with pure white light, that unconditional love of God, source creator. And I felt such a lightness, like lightness in my energy as it started to release. I don't want to manifest or project or predict, but just knowing that we have layers and layers and layers, I'm open to the possibility that it can come up again. Without blame, shame, or guilt, I will do the same, right? Again, you guys, let's normalize the process. Let's normalize that we are having a human experience, and that we are, and we have energy bodies that are way beyond this human, this human body. So because it's not so physical and dense and bold and in our face doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but we don't have to wait for it to manifest in the physical for us to address it either, right? Energy is not bound to time or space. However, if we don't clear that energy so that it can flow the way that it should, meaning if we're not processing our experiences in a sense healthy manner, so that that energy can continue to flow as it should, then it will build up and get heavy and dense and then manifest in the physical. And I'm pointing at myself and calling myself out because the tooth that I had mentioned, right? And I had looked up the meanings of teeth, and that deep grief and fear was in there. And what was the other one? I'd mentioned it on my live. Deep grief, fear. Forgot the other one. And then just being mindful that our mouth, our teeth, is connected and governed by the throat chakra. So, am I stifling my truth, my highest truth, not just the ego truth, right? We can overspeak in the ego truth, which I do that sometimes too. I've caught myself, and I did feel blame, shame, and guilt for a hot minute, but then I allowed myself to not feel that and just call myself out and own it and make a decision to do better, right? Because sometimes it's just that, like, eat it, own it, but choose differently. So yeah, speaking of Kyle Cease as well, he has a book. So going back up a little bit to that fear of judgment, he wrote a book called, I hope I screw this up. I think that's what it's called. I just got it and I haven't read it yet. I've watched videos of him speaking to it though, and I get it. And it's similar to the Whatever Rises Love That, but it is that too, right? Because even though Kyle Cease has a very different lifestyle than I have in the aspect of growing up around some comedians and actors and like a little more on the celebrity, higher up on that celebrity kind of thing, right? Like I'm so far away from that, and he was exposed to that to a degree. I don't know to what degree, but doesn't matter. Still had his own fears of judgment and criticism and things, right? Wanting that acceptance to be quote unquote worthy and good enough, and a human being as well. So with thoughts and feelings like the rest of us, right? So that book, I hope I screw this up, is in a sense that um, method and action he took to help shift that energy. So instead of having that fear of judgment and fear of criticism, to not hide from what we feel is our purpose or our drive or our movement. Like my movement is a self-love movement, right? And again, it's not the icky, gross, egoic, selfish type of self-love movement. It is the self-love movement of God Source Creator. And I created that movement to address the issue of suicide, right? Ideally ultimately, it may not be directly, but in some ways, and then ultimately to stop suicides, because I believe that if we all loved ourselves enough, suicide wouldn't exist. So, what did that journey look like for me, and what was my process? And that's what I'm showing up to share with you. It may on the outside look very different, and you may not make the connection, but if you follow along with me and you start to delve in and do your own journaling, it absolutely make sense. Absolutely. So, I think I covered everything, so let me not then forget to specify a little bit with some ideas for your homework, right? And again, so I don't forget to mention, 7-Day Chakra Healing Challenge starts the fourth Monday, fourth week of September, and this year, so 2023, it's at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Healing hands again today, sacral chakra. So that lower abdomen, just resting your hands on your abdomen. That's it. Let the body do what the body does. Let it align on it, on its own. The body knows how to heal itself. Let it do it. Let it do it. Let it do its thing. I can't spit the words out. Color therapy. I have multiple colors on today. However, the color that resonates with the sacral chakra is the color orange, whether you're wearing clothes or holding on to stones or, putting the stones in your pockets. The colors surrounding you, closing your eyes and imagining maybe some orange light. Excuse me, the solfeggio frequency that resonates with the sacral chakra is 417 hertz. Affirmations are reflections. I feel, right? And again, don't forget that feelings words or emotions words, as you identify them, they're one word. So I catch myself doing this too as I'm thinking about how I feel and I turn it into this big long sentence or explanation. Well, I feel that, blah, 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 blah. And that's a thought, it's not a feeling. What do I feel? Calm, joyful, grateful, scared, right? Excited, nervous, one word. So how do you feel? And then get in alignment. It's not blame, shame, or guilt. If you feel it, call it out. I mean, let's not lie to ourselves, right? You don't have to broadcast it to everybody, but let's not lie to ourselves because that just allows it to become more dense and heavy and gunky. And then we just create more energy blocks with that, energetic blocks as we do that. So call it out, be gentle with yourself. Just don't get sucked into it. Like, oh my gosh, I know better. I can't believe I was blaming and shaming myself for that. What am I doing? And I'm supposed to be. And, let's not do that either. Just recognize it, call it out. I felt guilty for something. I'm calling it out. I'm not dismissing it. I'm owning it. Being accountable, I'm owning it. But then my action step is to then change it, right? Allow that forgiveness to occur. That includes forgiving self. Same with the fears. Why am I fearful? I know better, blah, 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 blah. Not doing that. I'm calling it out. I'm acknowledging it. I'm owning it. I'm being accountable for it. I'm taking the action step to allow it to clear, right? Doing things to let it clear, giving it permission to be there, allowing myself to feel what I need to feel. What's the saying? Feel it to heal it. Allowing myself to feel it to heal it. It's not my phrase. I didn't come up with it, but I heard it and I love it. So set your affirmations. How would you like to feel? What are the feelings and emotions that you do like? Go ahead and talk about those. Allow yourself to feel that too. The element of the sacral chakra is water. So take a bath, a shower, allow yourself to just receive and align and bask in the energy of water. Cry. Crying is a massive, beautiful release. I know a lot of us don't like to do it, but it really is cleansing and it is a way to clear away that energy and to release it. Drink plenty of water. Make sure you stay hydrated, allowing you to flush the energy through your body, right? Both physically and energetically and emotionally. Yeah. So again, if you're comfortable, drop it in the comments. Let me know how you find the video, what stuck out for you, what you like to use to manage your emotions, to balance the energy in your sacral chakra, how your health is for you in all aspects. What came up for you today? What did you journal on? And how are you feeling afterwards? And again, if you feel drawn, share the video out, share your perspectives, and don't forget to join me on the challenge. I will see you tomorrow for solar plexus chakra healing, where we talk about love, meeting ourselves with love and compassion, and our self image. Take good care. Love you. Bye.